Hello and welcome to this segment, which I called The World of Cold. And here it's all about introducing you to a link between water and cold brew. Cold brew means that the tea is not like traditionally brewed with hot water, but use a different method without any kind of heat to brew a tea. And what I like to do is to these glass containers, because you can really see good the color of the tea once it's ready. And cold brew is simply taking a tea, putting it into like a little sachet and into the water, and then leaving it overnight in the fridge. And it depends on the type of tea. Some teas, Japanese green teas, for instance, take only 2 to 3 hours, whereas other teas can take up to 8 hours. So the best is to put the tea into the water and then leave it overnight, and it becomes the cold brew. The difference between hot brew and cold brew is that by cold brew, you don't have that impact of some of the chemicals which are going diffused into the water, and the tea is much more softer and much mellower, like you do with the hot brew. And that's a very nice technique if you want to really like get out the great characteristics of a soft tea. And the overall aroma, the overall texture is much more mellow than a traditional tea would be for that kind of profile. So for instance, I took this container and I took Aqua Morelli, a low TDS water, TDS of 39, super low minerality. And I brewed it for about 8 hours, and you can see it's a beautiful color. And you can see the tea here, and the tea is actually much more mellow. You don't have that bitterness, that kick, that bite, which tea normally has in the first sip, but it's really much more balanced, and the sweetness of the tea comes out much better. And I used Darjeeling tea for this one, and the combination of the Darjeeling tea and the Aqua Morelli really is and using the cold brew is really a nice balance. What really fascinates me about the cold brew in the context of water is really the potential it opens up in a number of other areas. So for instance, in the area of cold brew, now we can, instead of also using still water, we can use sparkling water, because when I use sparkling water with boiling water, then of course the carbonation disappears. But with the cold brew method, I can use sparkling water, and it gives a different texture, and it preserves some of the elements of the sparkling water. So here, for instance, in the next container, I brewed a wonderful white tea, and I used also, which is actually the perfect combination, I used Aqua Morelli non-sparkling, which also has a TDS of 39, super low minerality, but it gives that extra kind of sparkly sensation to it. And for the third one over here, I also tried a different type of sparkling tea. I used Gerolsteiner, and actually I have this here, Gerolsteiner, and when you just brew it, cold brew it with the Gerolsteiner, it gets a different dimension. It kind of gives you feel the bubbles still there a little bit. I mean, a lot of it dissipated, but the bubbles are still there. And with the Aqua Morelli, it's much more subtle, but you get the essence of the tea. You get the flavor of the tea, but a little bit with that sparkling effect. Whereas with the Gerolsteiner, you have the high impact of the super high TDS in the minerality, but since we use the cold brew method, it still comes out nice, because it has this sweetness to it. So it's very interesting. What I also try to do is then to combine it and give it a different spin on it. So I brewed the cold brew with the Gerolsteiner, but then I added also Gerolsteiner to it. So now you get really the intense bubble effect of the Gerolsteiner, and it has this nice tea taste. So there's a lot of opportunities really that brings in terms of adding bubbles and adding the sensation of bubbles to tea. It makes it much more vibrant, and there's a lot of different opportunities using different waters, using different techniques. But definitely the cold brew method really is the opening gateway to that particular area. Another thing which I also find quite fascinating is the use of ice cubes by using fine water. So what I have here, for instance, I prepared 2 of them, and I actually had ice cubes with Aqua Morelli. So they're low TDS. I was actually fascinating that you can actually use then now TDS to define the nature of an ice cube. I find it very fascinating. And I also used the Gerolsteiner here for also made ice cubes out of Gerolsteiner, and there's a different texture and there's a different type of experience. Let me add the cold brew here to the Aqua Morelli brewed Darjeeling. And now I have the Aqua Morelli ice cubes with the Aqua Morelli tea. And it kind of maintains the same kind of sensation. It just gives it more of a coolness to an iced tea. And this is actually an iced tea used a cold brew method. You can also prepare iced tea by using a hot tea. In the restaurant industry, that's normally the little secret that, and it's called the glacier method, where you take hot tea and you put that hot tea into a glass, and you add ice cubes to it, and it then starts melt and gives them the more vibrant feeling for the iced tea. Whereas here I really wanted to play around with the impact of the sparkling as well as with the different type of ice cubes. And actually, what's fascinating is if I add the Aqua Morelli prepared tea to the ice cubes, I get an iced tea, but now I have actually 2 different waters. I have the water which was used to brew the tea, which is Aqua Morelli, and I'm adding to it the ice cubes, which are Gerolsteiner ice cubes, and that I think opens up a whole new world, because normally you cannot use the high minerality water for tea, because the minerality will impact the brewing impact. But here you already have a brewed tea, and you're adding to it a little bit of a kick, a little bit of a minerality to the iced tea. And again, this is I think also quite fascinating to open up that entire world where you can give the customer a different experience, where you can describe a tea, a very interesting tea from a different background. And you can describe what kind of water was used to brew the tea, but then also you can add to it elements of minerality by using ice cubes from a different type. So it's quite fascinating. And I think over time, if as you let the water stand a little bit of that minerality will add to the tea. And I think if you use a soft tea, then with a mellow profile, which comes out when you use the cold brewed method, then I think you can start playing around really with the minerality, and it will give a fascinating opportunity to present something new, something vibrant to the customer. So that concludes my quick introduction into the world of cold brews using different still and sparkling waters. And I hope you enjoyed this segment. Thank you.